Bernice Sandler was a small-town girl. An intelligent student at 14, she enjoyed helping the teacher get ready for class. They had the latest 1900s technology, even a new slide projector. One day, Miss Bernice Sandler was told that she could not operate the slide projector and fill the inkwells just because she was a girl. She could, however, sweep the floors. Encountering that level of gender bias propelled Sandler to become one of the driving forces behind the eventual passage of Title IX. The creation of Title IX of the Education of Amendments of 1972 was essential to address the inherent gender discrimination in schools, including sex discrimination, education, and athletics. The law states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from the participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Most public or private colleges and universities acquire federal funding. It is mostly in the form of financial aid for students, and a lot of money is given for research. Discrimination during the early 1970s was considered normal. Classes were segregated by gender. Female and male students were not allowed to participate in the same activities, and there were very few athletic opportunities for women. In 1970, Sandler, who was employed by Women's Equity Action League, began to research sex discrimination. In an article on enforcing civil rights legislation, she found a reference to an executive order. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the order that barred all organizations with federal contracts from discriminating on the basis of sex. In 1970, she and the Women's Equity Action League, whose main focus was equality for women in employment, started an action for all women in higher education. They filed a complaint with the Labor Department against all universities and sent many complaints to institutions. Sandler began to representative at Edith Green of Oregon. Green held many hearings in the House of Representatives. Working with Sandler, Green made a written record of the hearings. That record became the basis for the legislation that eventually became Title IX. Senator Birch Bayh, an Indiana Democrat, pushed the bill through the Senate. The bill was signed on June 23, 1972 by President Richard M. Nixon. It was published on August 30th. The law applies to all colleges, universities, secondary schools, and elementary schools that receive federal funding. The objective of this law was to prevent federal money from being used to support sex discrimination. Title IX had significant impact on athletics and classes for both genders. Before Title IX was passed, fewer than 30,000 females played sports in college. After Title IX, the number grew to 190,000. Before, women were given 2% of schools' athletic budgets. After the law was passed, women were given 40% of the athletic budget and 48% of athletic scholarship money. High school sports were also affected. 7% of high school athletes were girls before the law came into place. In 2011, that number was 41%. Jobs were greatly affected as well. In high schools before Title IX was passed, only girls took classes such as home economics, and only boys took shop. Girls were not allowed to take subjects that were inappropriate or that were considered high wage. After Title IX was passed, schools did not have the option to limit courses to a single gender. Women could take automotive repair and men could take nursing. There are many positive results of Title IX. The United States sent more female than male athletes to the 2012 Olympics. They brought home more medals as well. High school sports have greatly benefited with more than 3 million teen girls participating. Men have benefited as well. Sports that were only available to women are now available to men. Educational stereotypes were lessened. Science and mathematics were seen to be boys' good subjects. Girls were seen to be good at domestic work. The Act also protects against sexual assault and harassment. There are some drawbacks to Title IX. Athletic programs, scholarship numbers, and educational programs were cut by some colleges so that they would meet Title IX goals. Many schools do not have enough money to fully fund athletic programs. The fact that they had to cut men's programs was because men were overrepresented in sports. Coaching became uneven because more money was given in order to gain recruits, which increased the coaches' wages. Men started taking the place of women's positions. 90% of women's teams had female coaches when Title IX passed in 1972, but by 2012, only 57% did. It is true that today, 40% of coaches in women's sports are men. Since the salaries were raised by Title IX, men started applying for these jobs. Schools hired and fired the women. The rates of sexual violence have gone up rapidly from the 1970s to today, and some claim it is because of equal access. Men and women have been put together instead of being separated, and schools have not done a great job with protection. Lawsuits were being filed by transgender students who were being harassed or being told that they shouldn't express their gender identity. Using the restroom of their gender identity was also included in this. Men and women were positively affected by Title IX. It has made a huge impact on athletics and education. Without Title IX, schools and universities would no longer have a reason to ensure equitable access to education and athletics in a discrimination-free environment. In an interview with Dr. Tiffany Franks, president of Avery University, she said, "I have seen how Title IX has expanded so much, and I have certainly been a part of that expansion and seen how that has evolved. It affects us in many ways and holds the value of equity in front of us. Thanks to this law, sex discrimination has been lessened, and men and women have equal access to opportunity in school."